Hey friend, today we have a special treat for you. We are interviewing our friends Danny and Brianne Hoefelmann with The Good in Media. They are not only our podcast managers and run all the incredible behind the scenes, but they are couplepreneurs who have an incredible mission behind their brand and also an incredible story of how they got where they are today and how they work together as a couple, as a team, as parents. So hang in there with us. I know you're going to learn so much from this episode. Today, we are interviewing our good friends, podcast managers extraordinaire, Danny and Brianne Hoefelmann with The Good in Media. I am so excited. Literally, you two, first of all, you're game changers for us. This has been something for us. The recording a podcast has been on our list for years. And we put it off because we're like, I don't know the things. I don't want to know the things. So therefore, it must not be important to do right now.
It's starting to feel like family now.
I know.
I was in the kitchen cooking eggs. I hear them just come on in and start
just make
out.
ourselves comfortable.
For the record, your wife did give us permission to just walk in.
and that will, from now on, the door will be unlocked for you guys.
Okay,
Let's
good.
not tell
Appreciate
people
that.
when we're recording though. So.
There was no bullets flying, so I knew you were clear to take off.
No, but we've had such a pleasure getting to know you two, and you are wise beyond your years in so many ways too, which I just found out your age today. I was like, wait, I mean, like clearly you look young, but you operate and just act in a way that is beyond your age, to be honest, of typically what I see. And you're great entrepreneurs. You are just awesome couple and parents. And I just, I have a feeling actually we're going to learn some things about you guys today that we don't know yet. And I feel like, the pieces of your story that I do know are going to be incredible just in that. So
You're very self-aware too. Just having conversations and not too many people are self-aware or willing to go there. And that's going to be huge.
Well,
That comes with screwing a lot up. I think that's like my biggest
Touche.
my biggest thing that I have is the fact that I've done a lot of things wrong and had to figure out why.
But you own
back.
it. But you
Yes.
own it.
I was
Most people sweep it under the rug as it didn't exist. And then they can't grow from it. So.
Yeah,
It's true.
well, we'll receive that. I think that's the fun. I was thinking the same thing. As you were just saying, you guys are wise beyond your years. I feel like that comes with.
but we are actually 40 and 40 plus. So
Still.
Wow. Still, it just. I think I saw like a meme or something once where they were talking about like, oh, you're an old soul. They're like, no, that's my trauma showing. That's it just means I've been
the trauma.
through. Yeah,
Yes.
it's the trauma. But but I mean, we're so fortunate to know you guys. We'll receive that, all those incredible compliments, and you guys make it easy to walk in your house and feel at home because you guys are those people. You guys are. We were even talking about this when we got here. None of us are surface level people.
Right.
Like we want to really get down to conversations that are meaningful to us because like we don't want to waste time. We're on a mission to do some things. So I think it's one of those things where when you connect with people who are instantly like wanting to dive into personal growth, talking about money, relationships, the things you have screwed up and learned from, and then try and gift that lesson to somebody else. Like, you guys are our people. So I'm excited for this. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And you are going to bring so much value. So, from our fundamentals, faith, family, fitness, fortune. So, we can literally talk on all those topics from what I already know about your story. In every single element, you're chasing better in those categories, like as we speak. And you've walked the walk. So let's give our listeners just kind of like a backstory, who are you? Maybe even like, how did you meet? How long have you been together? And kind of go from there.
When she first met me, she didn't like me. She thought I was a jerk. We worked together in a catering company.
This is true. Mind you, we were 15 and there's a debate at how old I was at the time. 15 and 16.
15 when met.
So a 16-year-old boy, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fair enough for me to kind of look at him and be like, you're kind of sarcastic and
I was kind of one of the leaders at the catering company, but as one of the leaders, it also meant I probably talked the most crap. So
basically,
valid.
I think that was just like foreshadowing that we were meant to work together, because that's how we got to know each other. I was had just moved to St. George, Utah from California. So here I was, like, you know, newly starting high school. My family makes this big move, and it just felt so, I mean, again, kind of a jerk of a 16-year-old guy, like a little bit of a dramatic, like 15-year-old girl. I leave all my friends, you know. And then I met this guy who, you talk about like wise beyond your years. Once I got to know you, I realized about the same time that we had met, your parents split, and he was like helping provide for his mom. So here we are working these long hours at a catering company, 12 hours for you, sometimes longer, you know,
at 16,
and got to know him as someone who like shows up for the people in his life. And I needed that at that time, like, you know, being somewhere completely new. And it was cool to
the short version, and then you can ask us where you want to fill in. You know, we've been together almost 17 years. We've been married 14 years. We have 2 kids. We have a 10 and 11. Goodness, they're turning 11 and 13. They're 10.
What are the
Thank you.
In 2 months, in 2 months, they will be 11 and 13. That's where my brain has gone to already. So
they're planning birthday parties.
Do you know their names?
Okay.
Daxton and Nevaeh.
Okay. Yes.
So we've got that down.
those are correct. Yeah.
But so
can you verify?
Yes, I can verify.
So we've now officially known each other longer than we've not known each other in our lives.
Oh, wow.
We got married when she was 19 or 18. I was 19, and we pretty much started doing all of the quote adult things very young. So when you say like wise beyond your years, I'm like, half my friends are mid 30s and up, and they're still not married. They haven't settled down.
Still
and all
not
these
grown
things.
up.
Like, well, we checked all those boxes real young.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have an option to not kind of grow up a little bit, and especially once you add kids to the equation. Because I know I was not.
Yeah.
I had a really bad temper, and I won't even attempt to declare that I was like mature. But the moment you have kids, you just have to care for people differently. You have to have patience. Like, it was easy for me to justify that, like, she understands why I'm mad. I'm allowed to be mad. But, like, little girl, she doesn't get it. Like, she's just, why is dad mad at me? And I'm like, no, that's not it. So, like, it changes, like, kind of who you are as a person. Yeah. And definitely just changes everything about your temperament. So
in the best way. Like, I think that's the cool thing is, and we'll get into more of our story too, but just we were able to do all the things that we wanted to do from a young age, and feel so blessed to like have had at least enough clarity and vision for what we wanted to create for ourselves, you know. And so we were able to start that journey pretty young, and it's not for everybody for sure. And I think the thing I feel like saying too is, in, you know, all this beautiful story, you know, high school sweethearts and all this stuff, like, if you've been together long enough, or as long as we have, there's definitely times where you're like, are we going to make it?
Yes.
Like, are we going to, like, there's challenges and things that you face where it's, you know, you really have to see what you're made of and do some work on yourself individually, and then as a couple to check in and be like, hey, are we still choosing each other? Are we still in this? Are we?
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's still deciding if he's choosing me or not.
on like a real
he's
note,
still
though,
deciding.
Like, that really is like something that we have to choose like every day, though. But I think that's one of those things where like we hit a point in our life where we've had some really big transitions, and like I'm happy and grateful to say that like we're together because we choose to be together, not because we feel stuck and we don't have another option. And I think like when you live in a way that like Brianne knows that she has my support, of like, if you feel that your growth is taking you in a different direction, I would support you, even though it would be absolutely crushing. But like, it's the same thing. Like, we're both striving to operate so that we could live independently, but we're together because we choose to be together. And like, I think that's the strongest, healthiest thing. Like, I want to support her in whatever she wants to do. Same this way. And that doesn't mean like we want to go do things outside of marriage. It just means like, if you want to go on, you know, if your thing that gives you energy is Brianne likes to go to New York, she wants to go do these things.
Yeah.
I like to go on these men's trips and go like have fun and like, I don't know, just be out in nature and do stuff like that. We don't have to be codependent and together at all times. We want each other to be able to like go do that thing that gives you energy, and then come back to me happier and better. And like, that's a big thing for us.
That is so powerful. Oh my gosh. I was just thinking as you were saying that, I was like, one of probably the greatest ailments to a marriage is this codependency that a lot of people, especially if you got together as young as you did. And then I mean, I was 17 when we first started dating, and he's 4 years older, so he's an old man, but still, we were still very young.
Like a fine wine.
And you can very easily get set in your ways. You could look to that individual to define you, or even fall into a pattern of control and not even realizing that's what it is. And so, I mean, the fact that you two have been together at such a young age, and then you've evolved to be, you know, singularly powerful, and then together powerfully coupled, you know, that is huge. And that takes trust. It takes faith. And it's what real love is, to be honest. Like, that's true love between two people, is to love them so much, to let them develop on their own, and to trust that it's going to bring, you know, even more goodness and fruit back into the relationship.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
And I mean, that's what we've come to now, but we haven't always been this way.
Right.
Either. You know, I definitely, I can speak for myself in saying there were times I was very codependent. You know, how I felt about myself, you know, if I felt beautiful, if I felt, you know, capable of doing whatever it was always in the beginning very dependent on how, not how he felt about me, but my perception of how he felt about me. And so, I mean, and we've done so many things together, and now we're to this point too where we've come full circle, and we're working together and building this business together. And it could be very easy to get into that mode where we're very codependent. And so I think I still have those tendencies, or still have those days, but because of the growth that we've had, and I honestly, like, I'm grateful for some of the challenges that we've had, because it forced me to really be that woman that had to learn to be more independent. Yeah. Like, I had to show up for myself and learn for myself the hard way. That, like, if I don't love me, I can't accept love from him. Or if I don't feel like I'm capable to go out and create something, you know, like, our business wouldn't be what it is if both of us weren't showing up individually to go after goals, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Yeah. I wonder if some of this came about, if this is kind of, you know, maybe we have a similarity here, but I know for us too, when we were in that rocky point of our marriage where it's like, I don't know if this, I want it to work, but I don't know if it is. Like, this is really hard right now. Yeah, I had to picture myself, well, what if it doesn't? Who would I be without him? How would I live my life? And like, and what I saw was, I was like, I would be a fighter. Like, I would still try to be the best mom that I could be. I'm going to provide for them. I'm going to step up. And then I asked myself, well, why don't you do it now? Like, why don't you become that girl now? Yeah. You know, and how would that impact your relationship? Did you have a similar moment in which you were like, that exposed some things for you personally?
Yeah, 1,000%. Like, the thing that comes to mind, and I'll let you like share, like 2016.
There's two moments.
Sounds significant.
There's take it away. Like, 2016 was.
Well, there's two moments for me. There's been two really, well, there's been more than two transitions in our life, but like two big ones. One was in 2015, I took a job knocking doors and like selling alarms door to door. And I genuinely recommend that job for anyone to go just build grit. It is a fantastic job for someone learning sales, learning grit, learning to like accomplish things. My thing was, I took that job to get out of a corporate job that I hated. And at the time, we had like on paper like that perfect.
So you had to really hate that job. Go door knocking.
You told us some stories about the door knocking experiences.
Who were very successful at it, and I was like, it's kind of one of those when you're like, that guy can do it, I can do it, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And my thing was like, on paper, we had the nice house, had the 2 cars, 2 kids, like good corporate job, everything was solidified, and yet I was legit like starting to feel like suicidal, and I was like, I don't know what to do here. Let's shift up things. And I was like, okay, we're going to go out to Kentucky with this group and we're going to go sell alarms. And that wound up turning into like one of the hardest summers of my life, because turned out just moving didn't actually change anything. I was still the same person. So now I was suicidal while knocking doors. Oh. And like, it just turned into like not a good, I mean, obviously it's not a good scenario, but, but what it did is it
not
kind
favorable.
of tanked our whole financial, everything we had, anything that we had built up. And we wound up losing everything by the end of 2015. Oh. And I had to move the whole family to Houston to live with my sister. So super grateful for her and my brother Nate. Yeah. Like, they took us in, and and it's weird because right now I can't contemplate myself being the same person. Wow. But like, I couldn't work. Like, I was legit like mentally so gone that like, I was like, I'll just be the best uncle here at the house and I'll just like try to take care of it. But like, I couldn't function. And again, I can't tell you, like, I can't imagine that right now. Because right now I have way more of an attitude. Just like, I'll freaking figure it out. Doesn't matter what's going on. Like, we'll figure it out. So we were in that position, and we legit like had cars repoed. We lost the house. Like, all of that went out the window. And we spent a year in Texas. And then towards the end of the year, we both kind of hit this point where it was like, we can't do this anymore. And that was like beginning of October. And again, I was already into personal growth, personal development. And I had heard 3 or 4 different people that I looked up to say, you know, if you're genuinely stuck, change your environment and like do something drastic. And the team that I had gone out to sell with in Kentucky was going to be starting a team back here in Phoenix to sell in Phoenix. I was like, I don't want to rebuild in Houston. I want to come back here. And I had a good enough rapport with everyone that I was either like one of the top dudes or I was like the cancer to the team. There wasn't much in between, but they knew like I understood sales. I could help teach. I understood personal growth. I was a good team member. I could do those things. So I was like, can I come back up there and just work with you guys? And what we wound up doing was just setting the deadline between her and I that you can stay for Halloween and see the kids do Halloween, and then you have to drive yourself back to Phoenix and fix this. So we spent about 2 months apart, just me selling and like just being forced to get back going. Yeah. She took a job back there. She really helped be like the stable money. And we figured it out, and it got us back here. And it was literally like, what's the cheapest apartment we can get in? Okay, cool. Yeah. And it was just like anything we could to just hit a baseline of like, we're at least just us now. Yeah.
Heads above water.
Yeah. Yeah. What other parts of Texas, what am I missing that you were thinking of specifically?
Well, it was the same experience, but obviously from 2 different perspectives. So you talk about, let me ramp up here. Okay. This is about to be really good. So I look at this whole experience, and you started by asking this question of like, both of us had to get to this point where we had to be okay figuring things out on our own. Yeah. And of course, like, we dropped this like bomb of like, he was suicidal and really struggling with his mental health. And so as a wife, like, of course I was feeling all those feelings that you would completely imagine and understand a wife would feel, the empathy, the heartbreak. I felt so bad for him. I also felt very angry. Yeah. And was having to go through really like all these feelings of grief. Anytime something happens in your life where it's turning out different than you had envisioned for yourself, you go through these things. This was a big one. Yeah. You don't picture like, you know what, we're going to get happily married. We're going to have these 2 kids. We're going to build this life. And then guess what? We're going to take this beautiful detour to like really learn grit. And, you know, we're going to lose it all. And we're
it's going to be so great.
Yeah, it's going to be so great, you know. And so like I had to get to this point, and it took me a long time. I think like this is why I refer to it as 2016. It took us a year, you know? And I think it's one of those things where like I used patience almost as a crutch. I'm a very patient person. And so I was like, okay, you know, like we'll get it together. We'll get it together. And I finally, like, both of us at the same time looked at each other. And it was at that time when you were like, okay, I'm going back to Phoenix. We're going to be apart. You're going to go work and I'm going to work here. And I was just like, that's it. And I was so like, I got a seasonal job at Kohl's in the morning, and I would go there and I would be one of the people unloading the trucks and sorting things out at Kohl's.
Wow.
Because I got a job that I was like, both of us didn't want to stay in Houston. It had this
Did
negative.
You have kids?
We did, yeah. So this was 2016. So Nevaeh and Daxon they turned 5 and 7 that year.
Oh,
yeah.
And so, I mean, there was a stint in the middle where we like had our own little apartment with the sales team and that, but for the majority of the beginning and end of the year, we lived with his sister. So there were, you know, and so incredibly humbling experience. But I had to get to this point where I was like, that's it. I'm angry. Like, you need to go do your, like, I got fed up with our own BS, you know, because I was in victim mode. And that was the thing where we finally had to both get to that point where we were like, okay, we have to do something about this.
Yeah.
And so I got that job, and it didn't take long before I was like, okay, this, you know, $8 an hour isn't cutting it. So I was like, okay, what can I do? And I got a job at Costco. And I was one of those ladies folding the laundry at Costco for $13 an hour. And it was that version of both of us that, I mean, we can reverse engineer everything, but it was that version of us that learned to show up and work hard and to stop listening to that voice in our head that was holding us back from taking action, that took us from that in 2016 to then coming back and having that small apartment, and then both of us getting jobs here in Phoenix, and then me, you know, almost doubling my income because I went and worked for another company and asked for what I was worth.
Yes.
And then eventually got to the point where we started our own business. And I mean, I look back at like 2016 Brianne, and if someone were to tell me like, yeah, you're going to create this business and you're going to be able to like have freedom of your schedule and be able to have a team that works for you, like, and write checks for people that were bigger than what I would make a month working at Kohl's or at, you know, Costco and those types of things. Like, that's the thing that is really cool to me to reflect on our story, and not out of like we're so at the beginning, you know, we're so at the beginning of what we're capable of, you know. But I think just looking back and kind of just to tie it up and answer that question, like, I definitely had those moments where I looked at where we were and I was like, hey, like, someone has to, like, I think I was waiting for some hero to come and like save us. I think I was leaning on him as this person that like I've known to be this super strong, like, I'm like, it was almost like he'll figure it out. He'll finally get it together. And I finally was like, if I don't do something, then it's not going to get better. Yeah. And so we were able to be that support to each other, to trust each other enough and to trust ourselves enough to take action and make our lives better.
That's so profound. I remember
Start rowing in the same direction. Kind of thing.
Yeah. You get fed up. That fed up moment is powerful. Yeah. And people get really real with themselves in that moment and be like, no one is coming to save me except myself. Like, am I going to step up to the plate?
But it's interesting.
And that you both decided to step up to the plate at a very hard time, like rock bottom time, right? Yeah. You know, it's like you could have just said, hey, this is our fate. This is in our DNA. Like, this is what it is. It
sucks,
I
think it would have been nice to understand that, like, you don't have to like hit rock bottom and skid. Like, you can, you can notice you're there and then go. But I had a crazy and I realize now that like a big thing that I had was just kind of a feeling of hopelessness. Like, it can't get better. But I had a really crazy ability to be like, could be worse. And like, no matter how bad it got, I was like, could be worse. I'm not sleeping on the street. Like, could be worse. I'm not this. I'm not like, so it was like.
Which gave you a little bit
So it gave me a little bit of comfort in staying on the bottom of like, it's not that bad. You know, there's a denial there of like, it's not that bad.
Oh, so it prolonged.
So it prolonged how long we had to stay in the worst part of it.
It's like it justifies.
Yeah. So to your point, like, we did have to get angry. Like, we did have to get to that fed up point with it. Yeah. And I think the thing that I try, especially for people who are in the thick of those big challenges, especially things that are related to mental health, you're not thinking clearly. Right. You know, like he wasn't thinking with a healthy mind, you know? And so it's one of those things where, and the same thing with me, like when you're in that victim mode, like you're seeing things from a completely different lens that like you have to get out of that victim mode in order to be able to move forward. Yeah. That's the first step.
But if you don't
action, and action is the answer. But I also like, I can't get mad at past Brianne for taking her time to learn a lesson that like I had to learn on my own.
Yes.
But I think a big thing with that is until we had heard people who'd been through similar things, we didn't have the language to even describe what was really going on, to even have the self-awareness to know, oh, this is why I can't motivate myself to do anything. This is why I can't get past this moment. Yeah. I think there's a lot that happens when you start to get language around the things that you're struggling with, 100%. Because then you can actually communicate to your spouse like, hey, actually I figured out what I need. It's this. Because otherwise you're just sitting there being like, I don't know. And I can't tell you how many conversations there were that just was her saying like, what do you need? What can I do? And I'm just like, I don't know. Because I didn't know how to express it. And I didn't fully understand what it was. Because I've always struggled with that stuff back through, I'll say at least middle school. It was very, I was very aware of it.
Yeah.
But I had no one else. Like, it is a recent thing that people talk about mental health.
It is, yeah.
Almost to a point where I think it's becoming it's cool to have mental health problems. So I'm
yes,
I think we need to kind of ramp it
like
back.
writing songs about it now.
Let's ramp it back and get a grip a little bit and not celebrate it. But let's help people understand.
Let's help people.
Hey, it's something that you can overcome.
Yes.
Like there are things you can do that
they don't sweep it under the rug.
And it's not a shameful thing. It's a normal thing that it's a human thing, but it's common, but it doesn't need to be normal at the same time.
There's different levels to it. And I think by people just saying like, oh, I have depression, there's such an array of what depression means. And like, you might just, once a week, just have these feelings of like, today kind of sucks. And you don't know why.
Kind of blah.
And then you have other people who are full blown, like, I can't get out of my own way. I don't know what's going on and my life is tanking. They're both called depression. But they're not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
Right.
And again, like when you're navigating, going through something like that, while you already have a family, how do you communicate that to the family? Because I think like one of the biggest things we struggled with was her perceiving my lack of like at times desire to live or get out of this as her and the kids were not good enough.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's such a hard thing because like for me, it was like, I don't know how to express to you guys that like, it's not that you're not good enough. It's that I want better for you. If I get out of the way, someone else can help take care of you better than I ever could. And it's like, it's not reality. It's definitely not reality, especially for the kids. They would be heartbroken. It would change the trajectory of their entire lives.
Wow.
But at the time, all I could see was the negative in me. And I was like, I feel like you guys would be better off if you had someone different,
Yeah.
And like, I think it's the only time in my life that I've ever really like had those feelings, but it's just, I think that's the thing that people miss is it's not necessarily that like, I don't care enough for you. It was like, it was almost to a point where like, I care so much about you that you would be better off without me. And I think but like, to anyone who's actually in that mode, just know it's not true. Like, that's not a thing. Like, your kids love you. Like, my kids, like, my son thinks I'm Superman. He's 10. He still very much believes that about me.
Aww.
So like, it's one of those things where it's just like, talk your way through it, talk to someone and start to get perspective. Because if you can get some perspective on where you really are, what it would actually take to like get out of it and, have the language around things, you can change a lot pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And regardless of whether it's, struggling with any challenge in life, like action breeds confidence, like when you take action, I think that's the lesson that both of us got, even though again, different perspectives, different, challenges with the same experience. It took both of us realizing, okay, we were stuck in this. We're just thinking about it, which is a scary place to be. Okay. Well, our bank account is going into the negative. I'm thinking about it. That's stressful. Okay. What action are you going to take to remedy that? And so as you take a step forward and take another step forward and another step forward, like you gain that confidence in yourself and your ability. And then it actually brings progress.
Yeah. We always say action trumps fear.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're stuck, a lot of times it's because of fear or anxiety or all kinds of different, you know, feelings that we're having trouble navigating through. And it seems, you know, hard to take the next step sometimes. But, you know, he'll say, well, crying about it's not going to change anything. And so that's his motto. He takes action. And I'm like, I'm going to cry about it and take action though.
This is why we relate to you guys. Because I'm very much the feelings person. I have to feel it, you know,
your way through it,
to feel my way through it and everything. But yeah, I think
that's a general difference in like men and women, especially like in business, is it's like we need the feminine energy of like understanding more around things. But also like if you bring a problem to me, we had to learn, are you coming to me asking for a solution?
He's already laughing. He knew where it was going.
Do you just want me to listen while you vent, or do you want me to
Because you want me to fix it?
Because sometimes
my brain's going to go directly to, all right, here's how we fix it. And you're like, no, you're not listening. Like, no, you told me the problem. We need this.
It's clear.
It's done.
I got you.
Yes.
How long you been crying about this?
Yeah.
Come to me
sometimes we just need to feel seen and heard.
Yes.
Which I mean, and I'm sure I'm sure you guys feel this in running your business together too. I mean, it's such a cool place to be, being able to bring that masculine and feminine, you know, energy, for lack of better terms, to a business. Because I would bet to say, I've seen this in our company, is that at my best, like me being a very like emotional and, you know, empathetic, intuitive person makes me a better leader, makes me a better boss.
Yes.
It makes me a great mom. It makes me a great wife, and my ability to show up for our clients, our team, you know, like that's a strength. But also like his ability to come in and see something and just say, okay, this is a course of action that we can take. Like balance isn't a good word, but we
cut
both
through
bring
the
different
emotion when it's
strengths.
necessary.
Yeah, when it's necessary. And sometimes, you know, that is the case.
Yeah, that's the case for us too. A lot. Like, okay, time to cut through the emotion. Can you give me some clarity real quick? You know?
Yeah.
Just what you both said is going to, I feel like, bring so much value to some people, and being mentors ourselves and working with people in helping them build their businesses and the health that they want. Really, a lot of times we're talking about this kind of stuff with people. This is the stuff, you know, men are all people are struggling with. A lot of people have had moments at time where they're like, do I even belong here? Like, do I even have a purpose or a reason? Is this even worth it? You know, but what you just said too, from your perspective of like meeting in the middle with what you went through. We have some good friends that he had a very similar experience as you two, and question, you know, if his family was better with or without him. But that perspective of like, I might feel that way. Like I might feel like, are we not good enough to make you happy or to make you feel loved and worthy? But when you just said that, you said it was that there might be somebody that could be better for them and give them the life that you wanted to give them, but you felt like you couldn't. It's just, that is so profound, you know, and then coming from that and getting, like, just putting your fist up, really, and be like, nope, we're going to come out of this fighting. And it took you kind of going almost, quote unquote, your separate ways, still married, not like, you know, but you know what I mean? Like you going to find yourself, you going and doing your job and what you needed to do out here in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
And then you came back together in the middle?
Yeah, we both had to operate independently for like 2 months. And I made it back to Houston to pick them up like a couple days before Christmas.
Wow.
So it was good. I got back just in time for that. And then by January 1st, we were driving back up here.
Yeah.
Because between the two of us, we made just enough money to like, all right, we're up here. And now let's just keep things rolling.
Keep the momentum.
Yeah. Now I want to ask, because there might be some people that listen to this that are wondering, okay, Danny, what did you do? That sounded pretty bad. And how long did that go on for you where you felt like you were like your rock bottom? Like
basically most of 2015.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, well, count 2016 too, because 2016 when I was in Texas was the time I was also not a super functional human being.
Oh, well, someone is likely wondering what you did. Like, were there specific actions? Did you go get help through a doctor? Were there certain things that you dove into to help yourself through this?
I think for me, like, I've still never been to traditional therapy, but I think there's a lot of good in being willing to talk to people. And a couple things happened when we were in Texas. One, Brianne and I, knowing that essentially like we don't have any income, like we don't have, like all these things are completely screwed up right now. And Brianne and I went on a date, I think to like an Olive Garden, just to like put it on a credit card, but like we need a date.
Got some breadsticks.
We need something.
Yeah.
You know?
Bring all the breadsticks.
But we took a picture outside and we posted it on Facebook, and someone commented like, your guys' life is perfect. And I was like, you have no effing clue what's going on right now. Wow. You have no clue. And I told her and the family like, hey, just give me a minute. Like I'm going to go do something. And I did a Facebook Live, and I just opened up, and it was the first time I've ever done a Facebook Live. And I just talked about the fact that like, you are seeing a highlight reel. All of you are seeing a highlight reel. You have no idea what's going on. I'm down here living with my sister. I've been suicidal.
Wow.
And I basically just laid it all out and talked about mental health, and I talked about where everything was. And it was 5-7 minutes, something like that. But I cannot tell you the overwhelming amount of people that reached out saying, dude, thank you so much for talking about that.
Yeah.
Because me too. And I didn't know we could talk about that. And that was a huge weight off my shoulders, because I was no longer hiding it. You know, I was no longer feeling like I had to like put on a face for some people while like everyone else kind of knew the real truth. And so that was like the first thing. And then the second thing was very similar to that. But a few months later, I had a cousin actually commit suicide.
Oh, man.
And I was one of the first people to find out, because it's technically my mom's cousin, but I just called him cousin. He's closer to my age than her age. But essentially he lived next door to Brianne's parents at the time. Oh, so man. I immediately called up there and I was like, hey, is this true? And they're like, yeah, they're, you know, taking care of him right now. And it was like, oh, and it gutted me, because that cousin legitimately is like the story of Robin Williams. He was the life of every party. He was the funny guy, like everything about him. He made everyone feel good.
Wow.
And he took his own life. And I, again, just kind of told the family, like, just leave me be for a little bit. I need to go like process this. And I wrote like a big long post. Everything's still on Facebook, but like basically just saying like, it happened again. Like we lost someone who didn't know how much we all loved him. And I'm watching his Facebook feed fill up with nice things said about him. But why don't we say this crap while they're here?
Right.
Man.
Like, why do we have to wait until someone passes away to let them know, hey, remember this experience you and I had 5 years ago? That had a profound impact on me.
Yeah.
If you think it, send them a text.
Say it.
You don't have to do like, you don't know what messages you could just send that might just catch someone in the right time when they were thinking of doing something not good.
Yeah.
And like, you just don't know. And essentially I put it out there, and it went into that and a few more like things with it, but it was just a plea to like, you never know who's struggling with something. Everyone is struggling with something, but you never know who's at what level. And basically just saying like, if there's someone in your world that you feel like you should say something to, like just send a message right now.
Yeah.
And that wound up getting, and I don't care about like the numbers of the reach, but it was the first time that I saw how impactful one voice could be.
Right.
Because it got shared literally like in different parts of the country, to where I had multiple like churches in different states reach out and say, we just read this to the congregation and we want to say thank you.
Wow.
And I was like, that's like humbling and cool. And like, it was just a big thing.
Yes.
But there was like hundreds of messages and things of people saying, thank you for your words. Thank you for this. And it was the first time that I realized like, oh, me, the guy who's struggling, I can make a difference. You know, like I'm uniquely positioned to talk about these things, because I'm like, I was almost him, you know?
Right.
So like, I think that's kind of like it's a big moment for me that kind of repositions things to where like I can look at things now, and it's part of the reason that we have our company. Like everything with the good in media is we're going to put out more good in the world, and we're only going to work with people who are in like the growth space. So if you're trying to help people better their lives in some way, cool. We want to be behind you. That's where the good in media comes from, is like when I was going through all of that, and she was going through all of that because of me, two things that I came away with stronger than anything was like, no matter how bad a day is, there's always some good in it. And the second being that too many people let bad moments ruin whole days. And I let bad moments ruin whole days every freaking day for like a few years, you know? And I think that was just a big thing for me. So it's just understanding that like by talking about it you don't have to go talk to someone who's like a therapist or anything like that. Find someone you trust and just let them know, hey, I'm struggling. You don't even have to go all the way into it. Mm-hmm. But if you're open about it, it's going to kind of release that pressure valve. It's going to let you just kind of let it out. And then I was very fortunate that as we got back here to Arizona, I started a job where I became a podcast producer, and I wound up just sitting in on podcast. And I was already obsessed with podcasts because I feel like that was one of the things that got me out. All these people that I looked at as mentors,
wow,
I got to listen to them, especially when I wasn't working, 8 hours a day. And I was hearing so many inspirational, cool people teach me about life, teach me about progress, teach me about hope, like all these things. And like those were the things to me that like kind of just got me to see a little different. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then every time I got to sit in a room with these hosts and they'd have these cool conversations, and then when the conversation would end, I get to still sit with them for another 20, 30 minutes. And now I get to ask questions. So I had my own little therapy session built into my job because I just got to talk with cool people and I could ask them, you know, I heard you struggled with this. I'm going through that. How would you go through this?
Yeah.
But it all comes down to open communication. Even if you don't know the person that well, like that might make you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't want to go tell
like,
someone in their family that's going to turn around and judge them.
Or tell other people that,
talk to someone in the supermarket. And you'll never see that guy again. Go for it.
There's your suggestion.
It's just
in the supermarket.
So like, I've
corner somebody and just.
Yeah. So anyway, I think the biggest thing is just talk, though. You have to talk.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That is so powerful. I'm a very big proponent of that too. Gone through some hard things in my life also. And the power of social media and just deciding, like, I always say, shine over shame. Mm-hmm. Like shame is one thing that will take something that a lot of people experience and go through and make it feel like it's only you. Like you're the only person going through this. This is some huge major flaw in you and it can't be exposed because you would be like, you know, people would be talking about you and whatever. But actually doing the opposite of what, I mean, I think it's some old school type of thinking too, you know, that you don't air your dirty laundry type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're really wanting change, true change in your life, you've got to get that stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's also kind of taking the power back and just owning the story. It's just acknowledging like, yes, I went through that. Yes, I struggled with that. And now I think one of my biggest debates is like, I have a hard time. I used to share that story a lot because I just know it helped a lot of people. And now I'm like, I don't just want to be the guy that's known for mental health. Yeah. But at the same time, same time, I recognize the impact that I can make because of where I've been.
Yeah.
So it's kind of finding that balance even right now. Like that's a thing Brianne and I talk about a lot is like, okay, who's the person I want to show up in the world as and what's the impact I want to make?
Yeah.
And I think there's more to me than that piece of it, but I think I'm very uniquely positioned to like reach people that I know that like, but I think all of us are, to be clear, like you can reach people and you can reach people and she can reach people that I can't. All of us can get to people because of our unique experiences. And I think no matter who you are, if you've been able to like have, you know, your own perspective on life, there's someone else who shares that perspective that wouldn't click with anyone else.
Yep.
Like we had a guy on a podcast, JP Sears. He's now very political, but he used to just be the satire guy.
He's so funny.
But we had him on a podcast once and we asked him, what's more important, the message or the messenger? And he was like, hands down, it's the messenger, because there's not a single thing that you're going to say that hasn't been said before.
Exactly.
Everything has been said, but not by you. And you don't know who you're going to be able to
who you're going to connect with. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. My favorite video of his, one of my favorites, is the yoga poses.
Yes.
And the Instagram influencer.
Yeah.
I'm like,
so funny.
You've won me. I'm now forever going to follow you. This is hilarious. Yeah. But that is so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I like what you said about going way back, but is to, when you have an impulse or like that feeling to text to reach out to somebody, that we just need to start acting on that. You said that a while back, but it's powerful because there's so many times that I think about people. And just recently, in December, I had always thought about a friend of mine who was sick. And we talked, but it was really spaced out. He was really sick. And for some reason, I'd think about him all the time, but I didn't call him. I'd get distracted, and then I'd go do something else. Well, I texted him this one time. I thought about it, and I said, let me pick up the phone and text him. And I just said, hey, love you. And he said, love you too, bro. 3 days later, he died. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, if I wouldn't at least pick that, I mean, I wish I would have called him. I wish I'd have been on the phone, but it's like, you don't know. So it's like, I'm so glad that I acted on that.
Yeah.
And you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's for both of you. Oh. I think even this is our story, and I've heard you share even your perspective, you know, and it's not that we're not saying, I'm sure there's a place for certain people to go get medication or to get professional counseling and stuff like that. We're just sharing what has worked for us.
Your story,
But like, you, not only were you sharing and getting something off of your chest, but like you were not thinking about just yourself. And I'm not saying it's selfish, you know, to have the like mental illness, but you flipped it and started having conversations with other people, and you were showing up for them. Like you were thinking about other people, and it gave you this purpose. All of a sudden there was this like, oh, purpose I could help this other person, you know? And I think like that's so powerful. So it's for both of you, you know, like anytime you're open, like, you know, let go of the shame, talk about, you know, things with, you know, obviously don't do anything you're not comfortable with, but like, but sharing your story. And there's so much power in that, because like you realize you're not alone, and so does the other person on the other end.
Yes. So powerful. So you brought up in this process, you had the option of working in Houston, right? But you chose to come out here in Phoenix, which led you to working then with a podcast company. Yeah. Which, did you have any experience in podcasting?
Nope. I just watched a lot of vlogs and listened to a lot of podcasts.
The power of the internet.
Basically, I just saw a guy who was running vlogs, and I realized, I'm like, oh, his office is 10 minutes from our house. So I DM'd him and just said, hey, you know, I have like this much experience creating vlogs of my own. If you ever need help, let me know. You know,
so you put yourself out there.
I just put myself out there, and he asked me if I knew who Gary Vee was, and I was like, yeah. And I was like, so you need a D-Rock. That's the guy who follows him and films all his vlogs. Oh. And because I understood that dynamic, it set up a conversation. And then I went and had a conversation with him, and that became, I was employee number one of that company. So I was there about 2.5 years before we split. And now we're coming up on 3 years being in business on our own.
So preparation.
But it was basically a whole lot of like, we need to know how to do this. I'm on YouTube. I got it. I'll have it by tomorrow. And we'd figure it out. There was a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
Say yes, figure it out later.
1,000%. I built an entire business based off of just Googling things and, you know, YouTubing things. And obviously having great mentors and seeking out mentors too. But I mean.
So the good in media, you kind of talked about how that came about for you. Yeah. But let's kind of dive into that a little bit, being both business owners, entrepreneurs, figuring all the things out, but also coming into this as a couple, because so many people that listen to us are, you know, people that work together in their businesses, or they're trying to learn that dance. They want to bring a partner home. So you guys have an awesome and unique perspective here too, that I think is so powerful. So let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
That one's you.
Yeah, well, because I was the one that was brought home from my 9 to 5. So
what was it like when I brought you home?
Chaotic.
How did that go?
And what did you do prior? Was it something completely different?
It was completely different. So my background is in the medical field in little different areas. I've been like a unit secretary in the hospital here at a couple different hospitals, but it was always based around surgery, whether it be like, you know, C-sections and stuff like that. I got to be a scrub tech in a former life, so I got to be the one actually passing instruments to the doctors and stuff like that. So I mean, completely different going from the medical field to running our own business. And that's a crazy leap. It's so exciting. Obviously, he had started the business a year before I came home. To be honest, it was one of those things I kept thinking like, I'll go ahead and jump in at some point and help. But we hit that 1 year mark, and it just got to the point where like he needed more hands on deck. And so it was at the time, he and 2 editors that are still with us.
Wow.
And so it was the 3 of them that were running the show. And I was lucky enough to have a great job that I was very blessed to have, but that I really didn't like. I had gotten to the point where I didn't like having to ask for time off. I was in that mode of, I had a manager at the time that she was very, like, she and I butted heads in a way that, like, I felt dumb going to her and asking her questions and stuff like that. And so it was, I'm sure a lot of it was my personality too, but like, we didn't mesh very well together. So it gave me this extra incentive to be like, okay, you know what? Like, let's bet on ourselves. Like, we already were, we had started this business, but my income from that 9 to 5 was like our little baseline. And just like starting our own business, like me leaving that 9 to 5 was the best thing that we could have done, because I was able to, obviously at first, like I say, it was chaotic, coming home and figuring out, relearning this new dynamic of working together. But also at that point too, we didn't have all the systems, as like when you are a new business. To
be clear, we had no systems. I ran everything out of my head. Yeah. So if you didn't actually know, like, because when she came home, I was very busy. So she's like, well, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, I don't have time to train you. Sorry. And I would just hang out with the kids until I can figure it out,
Oh my gosh.
And then it kind of grew from there. But I think one of the bigger things was really taking on the dynamic of like, now that we're all here together, and like, this was, she came home basically when COVID was like shutting everything down. And it was like, I need you home with the kids too, so it was kind of like, we're all figuring everything out together. But I think like one of the biggest dynamics was like also learning to talk to each other as business owners. Cause like now we have to separate, are you business Brianne or wife and mom Brianne right now? Yeah. And like, same with me, because I recognize that like, I just have a very stern tone, even if I don't mean to. And I will come across as like aggressive. And I'm really just saying like, hey, I just need this one thing real fast. Yeah. And she's like, well, I was just trying to give you more backstory. Don't need it. Sorry. And it was like, oh, okay.
I'm like, you need it.
You need the backstory. Trust me. Like, I just need that one fact. That's all I'm here to figure out. And it was like, oh, okay. I can't talk to you that way. I'm sorry. And I still kind of do sometimes, but like, it's a work in progress, because I think there's just those little bits of like, again, it's your style of like, let me make sure you have this and this. And like, we all do that sometimes, but like, you want to make sure that I understand the why behind things. And sometimes like, just tell me the thing.
Tell me.
Yep. You're very much like that too. Yeah. And sometimes I'll lose some 3 sentences in. I'm like, I can't condense the things into just one sentence.
Me 3 sentences.
I'm like, hold on, just hold on with me.
Yeah. We definitely relate to that for sure.
I extracted what I needed, and then she's still talking.
He's always all like,
got it. Good job.
I got it. But hey.
Yeah. But it's been, it's definitely, communication has been a thing that we've had to like fine tune, which we already thought we were pretty good at it as husband and wife. Like it's something
having gone through what we went through, we learned to speak pretty openly, pretty boldly of like, hey, this is what I need. These are these things.
Yeah. It is completely different too. Well, we have this like double-edged sword, right? Where it's like, we have all this opportunity to create whatever we want together. We have this, this dream that we're building together. But on the other hand too, like, running your own business comes with a lot of problem solving and issues, and you're bumping into things, and you're having to create stuff from scratch, and you're having to not just deal with each other, but different team members. And there's as a CEO, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, like, you are the person that puts out the fires. And so it's learning that dynamic of being under that much stress, where still communicating well under that, and understanding better, like kind of what you said before, like, hey, do you need me to just listen to this issue right now, or are we in problem solving mode? Like having
the awareness.
Awareness and different ways to check in with each other and know like, okay, or who's in charge of making the decision.
That's what I was going to say. There's 2 things that stand out to me, like going into what you're saying there, is like, we're just now really starting to clearly define what are our roles. Because if we both think we're in charge of the same things, then we kind of overlap, and then we also assume the other person did it, and it doesn't get done efficiently, and it's chaos. But if it's like, hey, at least for this season, this next 90 days, we're going to try you being in charge of this, I'll be in charge of this, and we just keep things going. I think that's a big thing. And then also having boundaries where when we say, hey, when we shut the laptop and it's 8:00 at night or whatever it is, no more work tonight.
Done.
Because I don't think you can separate work from us. Like, it literally is part of what we do. It's in everything. I can't go on a date and not talk about work because work is part of our goals. It's part of our dream setting. It's all these things.
We enjoy it, too.
And I'm totally cool with that. But I think there's just boundaries with, we don't have to talk about clients after this time, or like, do we set specific times to say, this is, every problem you can think of, write it down. Don't bring it to me out of the blue because we're all both trying to accomplish things. Write it down. We're going to have a meeting on Wednesday, and then we'll go over every problem, unless it's urgent. Obviously, we communicate urgent.
Yeah.
But everything else, if this is like hey, I had an idea how we could do this better. Cool. Write it down. Let's talk about that at the next meeting.
Yes.
And then it allows us to not throw each other off because we work on separate things. We work at different paces. I like to have headphones on. Like, it just, there's all these things. And it's like, okay, we have to have boundaries with each other. We have to have boundaries with our clients because they also want to know, like, hey, where's our stuff at? And I'm like, oh, just check your thing. It's there. Like, like we got you.
Yeah. It's remembering to run our business the same way if like your partner wasn't your spouse. If you had a business partner, like, you're not necessarily going to be, calling them up in the middle of the day when they have meetings or things going on to be like, hey, let me tell you about this problem. You would wait until you have a scheduled meeting. Like, it's the same way with us, which not that we do that perfectly all the time, like I do that all the time. I'll come to him and be like, hey, and we're both like, to be efficient, like, my brain needs to be focused on this one task or this thing that I'm doing. And so if I derail him or he derails me, then we're not being as productive. So it's like, just, having meetings.
It's powerful.
Structuring it like a real business, because it is a real business.
It is a real business. Yes, it's a real business. And you really are working together as a husband and wife together in that business. So while I love that you said that perspective, how would you treat your spouse working together in your business if it wasn't your spouse? And then you can add in like the little bonuses, like, but we've got some benefits here too. Like, we do get to stop and have a little hug in between tasks, or like, that's the fun things about working with your spouse.
She knows what I like about working with
Well, I think we are very similar. It's like,
well, I also laugh because like when you talk about that, and when we're both in like the highest anxiety mode of like everything is happening at once. She is a like physical touch person. That's her comfort.
That's one of my love languages.
So then I'm like,
isn't that hilarious?
I don't want to hug you right now. I want space.
I promise.
And she needs the hug.
I promise we're meant for each other. It's just when we're
because what he really needs is also the hug, right? Too.
Yeah,
you
eventually.
both need it.
Eventually.
I have bad tendencies toward isolation, and that's how I fix my problems. But that's definitely like, that's been a thing within the business and normal life of just like, hey, when there's like a lot of tension, she just wants to be told like, hey, everything's okay.
Yeah.
I love you. Here's a hug. Everything's good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to be angry. I want to stay over here. Just give me a minute. Like, let me go on a drive.
Nobody
touch me. Yeah.
Like, I will come back much more calm. So it's a I don't know. I'm sure everyone
look at
has
us
read
in our
it.
self-awareness. Like, Harold's told us we're so self-aware.
You're so self-aware.
This
you
is
are.
good.
See?
But like, it's kind of like knowing the love languages, but also
Yeah.
like then having to figure out communication styles and just all the things with it.
Yeah.
And then trying to remember that you know those, because it doesn't mean you follow the rules.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't.
And it's a day by day thing. Because like,
for sure.
When we start talking about marriages and having a healthy one, and then you add working in, a business together as spouses, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's a lot of work. Like, man, it's rough. But then thinking about it as a scope of it's a day at a time too.
Yes.
Like you didn't get to where you are today in your relationship and your business by reading your book and then overnight being like, hey, we got this. It's all better.
Yeah.
You know, it was a day by day kind of stumbling through, right? Getting it figured out.
And thank heavens too, because like we're so much more capable in both of those areas by taking things day by day.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no way I would be able to like do what I do in our relationship or in our business if I didn't have like small lessons.
Well, we hadn't grown into the people we are now.
Yeah.
Like, you guys know, like running a business is hard. Like you've got to be gritty.
Yeah.
We've developed that over the last 5-6 years, you know,
definitely.
Like we understand like, and like, I'll look at a positive in everything that we've been through. For me is like, I've been through really hard things. So if a client is mad at me over something that seems insignificant in my brain, I will validate them, but also like, you're not going to faze me. I'm okay. You know, like it gives you a different perspective when you've been through things that I will just call like real hard things to where like, oh my gosh, like we got charged an extra charge on this one thing. Okay. Dispute it. Like we'll get it back. Like it's never as big of a thing as it seems when anxiety is on high and then just something small happens, but it feels so much bigger because when you notice negative things, you notice all the negative things and it feels like it's compounding and it just keeps going. And it's like, all right, take a second and like, let's do like what are you grateful for today? Let's just stop and ask that question. And like, we did that on the way here when we were just like trying to figure out like, where are we at? Everything's kind of stressful, but like, what are you grateful for this morning? Okay. Stop and reset. That stop and reset is pretty important.
Yes. Yeah. That is so good. That's so powerful. So if you gave everyone like your biggest like piece of advice or top tip in working together as a spouse, building a business and a life of significance together, what would you tell everyone?
Take care of yourself.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I think that's been something it's always important, but especially lately where, like you said, we're on our way over here. We love what we do, you know, and put so much energy and everything into it, but you start flirting with burnout, which is not great. When it's something that you're passionate about, you know, like you want to give it your all. And so I think it's one of those things. I was talking to someone recently and she was like, well, you have to take care of the golden goose. Like you're the golden goose, you know, like in your business, you know, and maybe it's like mom nursery rhyme mode, you know, I think of that, but I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah. If I'm literally like financially in our business, let alone, you know, like nothing in my life works if I am not taking care of myself.
You're not working well.
Yeah. If I'm not working well, then this doesn't work well. Our relationship, you know, our relationship with our kids, our business. Yeah. So that would be my number one thing. And just learn to I think to wrap it up with everything else we've been talking about is like learn to love yourself and just take care of yourself and listen to what you need. And then then you'll be able to have a full enough cup to go take care of all the other things.
Oh. No, that's good. It's to put your oxygen mask on you thing, but too many times couples, we did the same thing is they're always wanting to fix you, but it's point the finger back and say, let me do what I can control. I can't control that. Definitely but it's like, let me dive into trying to control this hot mess. I got more of a chance. And that's what
and
you're
1,000%. It's both of those things. And I don't just mean from a self-care, like, go get a mani-pedi. You've taken care of yourself. It's personal growth too.
The internal,
it's like, are you
stuff.
really taking care of yourself and your needs? And growth is a huge part of that. Like you have to be proud of yourself, you know?
Yeah. Self-care is not selfish.
So good.
Right.
Because everything does trickle down from that.
Yeah.
Well, especially if you're raising kids at the same time. You got to be able to still have, you know, you're already giving to all of your clients. You're giving to the contractors or employees you have underneath you. Hopefully you're giving to each other a little bit. And it's like, oh, by the way, there's these little humans that look up to us and need absolutely everything from us still. And it's like, okay, remember to prioritize. Like for me, there's like three things. Hers was number one. Number 2 was I don't believe in balance because I just don't think it's reality. But I think you can have intentional, things for different seasons, different times for different seasons. But I think it's like remembering that like all of the success that we could have in the business, like if my kids don't like me, I don't give a crap. This all go away. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So like remember to prioritize.
What are we
like,
doing this for?
No,
but it's like
exactly,
remember to prioritize, and like she's way better at this than me because I'll just drive forward, no second thought. But like stop and have fun.
Yeah.
Like you gotta have some fun with this because otherwise it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then kind of my only other thing that popped in my head was just kind of have grace with yourself and understand that like you're not gonna love your business every day. Like you listen to Andy Frisella too. Like I was listening to one the other day and someone talked about how like, well, it's easy for you. You love your business. And he's like, for the first 10 years of entrepreneurship, I hated my business every day.
Something.
For the next 10 years, it was like every other day. And now he's like, F this business on Tuesdays. Like, it's just like, I still have my moments where I want to quit. And that guy runs $1 billion company.
Yeah.
So just kind of keep that perspective of like,
amazing
you're going through a hard thing. You're doing an uncommon thing.
Yeah.
Most people will not go through this.
It is not easy.
So if everyone could just build a business and grow wealth and do these things and it was easy, everyone would.
Right.
But it's not. It's uncommon. So expect to have some uncommon problems and pressures on you.
That's good.
That's
and like
powerful.
it's okay. That's normal. That's not meaning you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
You're going in the right direction.
It's a good
Yeah.
sign.
That's powerful. It's not the TV mentality of like grabbing the remote, turn the TV on, sit on the couch, and like, oh, that's nice. It's so comfy.
Once again, we're back to you can't just manifest things. You have to like manifest with the work behind it. Like you have to say like, I'm calling my shot, but also like, I know what it's going to take to get there. And these are the sacrifices I'm willing to make or I'm not willing to make.
Get uncomfortable.
And we make those decisions together. And usually that is one thing we do together is like, all right, if we want to hit this goal, it's going to mean we can't do this, this, this. Are you willing to give those up? If so, we're all in.
Right.
If not, let's not feel bad about not hitting that goal because we're accepting these and we want these more.
Something else is a priority.
Yeah.
All right. Fun question. Who's most likely to leap and who's most likely to pull the reins?
Ooh.
What's the situation? I think that's kind of the thing. Because I think...
True.
I think in a lot of scenarios, I'll say Brianne is the one who's like, well, it goes back and forth. We both
say what
have
I'm
moments.
Thinking. Let's see.
Well, are you thinking of like New York and like that kind of big dream? Because... what I was going to say is there are times where Brianne will have these big visions and I'm like, yeah, calm down. How are we going to get there? Let's come up with a plan. And she'll be like, I don't want to do the plan right now.
Like
I want to do the fun dreaming. And I'm like, yeah, I'll fun dream as soon as I can reverse engineer it and say I'm actually going to make the dream happen. And like, I think that's more than not our dynamic where she's the one that'll say like, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? And I'm like, yeah. And again, it's back to that. Do you want to be listened to or do you want me to solve the problem? Because I'm like, yeah, that would be great. And
your
I'll go right into making a plan and she'll be like, I don't want a plan right now. I just want you to talk about how cool this would be with me.
Let's not talk about how this would happen. Let's just talk about it happening.
Yeah. And then we eventually get to it. But
right.
Yeah, I would say I'm the leaper and you pull the reins.
Yeah.
That's interesting because you both seem to me very much like go-getters too. Like drivers. You're going to go get what you want or what you need,
I either don't care about it at all or I'm all the way in. That's pretty much my
Or
personality.
do you take more time to process? Like you want to just think about it a little bit more?
I will procrastinate if that's what you're asking. Yes, I will think about it. But,
I was going to try to be nice, but
I think that is the thing is like once I decide, hey, we're doing this, it's all systems go.
Yeah.
Like it's everything we have. And that's kind of
he's very much
the
like
mode.
that too. Yeah. So interesting. Thank you guys. This was just so awesome, so powerful. It's going to help so many people. And I'm just excited also to see what's in your future. You're going to help so many people, spread so many incredible messages, and you're already doing it now. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank
so
you
much
guys.
for
We're
having us.
honored to be on your podcast.
And to get to be a part of your podcast. It's really cool to get to watch you guys grow. Yeah.
It's like the conversations we have off camera typically. Now we get to.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
very
much.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.